next up here, we're going to move over to the NFL and talk about the fact that everybody hates Aaron Rodgers. And it's great. Finally, everything's coming out about him. Everybody's jumping on the hate train that Caleb started. He's been conducting that train for like the entirety of this podcast, and it's all finally coming to light, and it's kind of funny. So we're going to talk about it. Starting off here, we'll talk about what Terry Bradshaw had to say about it. Obviously, former quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers a long time ago, but obviously talked about him potentially joining the Steelers. And he said, that's a joke. That to me is just a joke. What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California. Go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there. Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw, ladies and gentlemen. His ex-girlfriend, Danica Patrick, came out and called her relationship with Aaron Rodgers the most pain she ever experienced. And Caleb, you were telling me before the podcast that another girlfriend, in fact, I believe his ex-fiance, came out and said similar. Everybody hates Aaron Rodgers right now for some reason. And, well, for a lot of reasons, I guess. But, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like, to say that it's coming to light now, I mean, I feel like for you to have known of Aaron Rodgers' existence in the last, like, 3 to 4 years minimum is to see what a total sham narcissist of a human being he is.
Like, I guess what I'm saying is more like, I think everybody, it's been in the light, right? Where certain crap he's been saying has been very obviously, wow, it's a little bit on the far side of crazy, but like it feels like finally now we're just seeing everybody finally collapsing in is kind of what I mean. Like there's a dog pile is starting is more what I'm trying to say.
I think the big part of that is the one thing that he could always hold on to was that he's a very good football player, obviously. Like, you know, as much as I hate the guy, he's still a Hall of Fame
he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time, for sure.
Yeah, he is, just talent-wise, like that has never really been in question. However, now that's starting to wear thin.
Yeah.
You know, the 2 seasons with the Jets were an unmitigated disaster. Half of that was not his fault with the injury. The other half, I mean, maybe it was a little bit more his fault. Didn't necessarily play very well. But now I think you say it's starting to crash down. He loses that piece of it where he can back it up with saying, like, at least, like, I have the credibility of being this great quarterback. He doesn't have that anymore, and now all of his narcissistic antics don't really hold the same weight to it. Because with what he's doing with the Steelers now, where he's kind of holding out and he's being all playful, he is giving interviews where it was like a fan meet and greet, and this like little girl asked him like, oh, will you ever come and play for the Bears in Chicago? She's a Bears fan, and he's all coy about it, and he's like, oh, well, I don't know if I'll play for Chicago, but there's a certain team that might play in Chicago. And it's just like, dude, shut the fuck up. He's been dragging on the Steelers for the last like 2 months. And I think everybody's growing sick of it, because if you do this when you're a Hall of Fame level quarterback, I mean, people will still be frustrated, but at least it's like, okay, like, it makes sense why you're holding out for him. You're holding out for a 40-year-old washed up like nobody at this point. Like, what is Aaron Rodgers really going to bring to the Steelers? Like, best case scenario, they make the playoffs and get like fucked out in round 1, like they've been doing for the last couple of years. So it's like, what does he really have to stand on anymore? Nothing. And so it's just the start of his slow, inevitable descent to like peddling conspiracy theories on Fox News, which he already does on his like bullshit Pat McAfee appearances. But no, it is great to see. It gives me some sort of hope in cosmic justice. That he's getting some sort of his due, and that hopefully he's falling out in the public eye if he hasn't already. Who knows if he'll join the Steelers? The Steelers are stupid for dragging it out this long. If I was the Steelers, I would have cut bait on him, try for Kirk Cousins, try for anybody with a pulse. But no, if they do sign Aaron Rodgers, it's kind of all their fault when that inevitably doesn't work out. And they go 9-8. You know, Tomlin, there's your winning record. You happy? Like,
yeah, that's kind of the thing with Aaron Rodgers, though. With like, even with how controversial he is, I feel like they could get 9-8 with Rodgers for sure.
Yeah, well, the Steelers can drag out a corpse and they'll get 9-8. That's the whole
true.
thing.
They did that with Big Ben, so there's literal proof of that.
Yeah, Tomlin has been coaching the Steelers for pretty much as long as we've both been alive, and he's never had a losing season. So, like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, like, I don't know. Even if you throw out Mason Rudolph, they'll probably, like, scrap and claw. TJ Watt will probably, like, start a couple games at receiver, but they'll probably end up going 9-8. Like, stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. If you're the Steelers, you need to move the needle in some sort of other direction. Aaron Rodgers is so clearly not that answer, because that's what the Jets thought they would do. The Jets thought they were oh so close to taking that next step, taking it up a level, and they thought Rodgers would be that, and he just wasn't. And there's no sense in saying now that he is a year older that that's gonna be any more true, because it's not just. I don't think that's just a Jets problem. The Jets were dysfunctional, but so was the quarterback, and I think a lot of that went hand in hand, and it's not going to get any better if you move out east to Pittsburgh.
No, I don't necessarily disagree. He's definitely on a downturn for sure. It's more or less over. And it's funny kind of seeing what his kind of legacy has turned into a little bit. He went from somebody who seemed like a Packer for life. He seemed like he was going to be there until the day he retired. And then obviously the Jordan Love draft pick happened, and then he moved to the Jets, and now this whole thing has happened where he's looking for his third NFL team in however many years. He hasn't had a good year since he was on the Packers, and it was probably his second last year, frankly. That was like on the Packers. I mean, that was his last really good year. So it's been a few years that he's been Pro Bowl level. And yeah, it's been kind of at this point funny to watch with just the way that things have worked out for him. And yeah, I don't even know. Like it's been very interesting to watch. I'm sure it's just gonna get worse for him. Dog piles usually don't stop with people getting off.
Yeah, no, it's true. And you talk about legacy, and I think that's an important conversation, because I think that all kind of changed post Packers, not just with his play, because I mean he's created a lot of this himself, because quarterback play kind of petering off at the end of a career is something you'd expect. You see it with pretty much all the great quarterbacks, except for maybe Brady, who continued to be immortal until he was like 46 or whatever. But like, Peyton Manning, even though he won a Super Bowl in his last year, was not very good. Like all the other kind of great quarterbacks, Joe Montana goes to the Chiefs and kind of goes out quietly. Like a lot of these other like all-time great quarterbacks don't play very well in the end, and that's inevitable. That's a function of your age. But I think where Aaron Rodgers is actively burning bridges and how he composes himself to the media, how he just like generally is, how he tries to take control of everything around him, whether that's bringing in a guy like Nathaniel Hackett, who is just like straight up not qualified for the job, bringing in all of his old pals to play a receiver instead of actually trying to improve the team, trying to exercise his control over winning football games. It's all of that stuff that poisons his legacy. Again, now that he doesn't have his play to stand on, it makes a lot of his talk more hollow. But what's poisoning his legacy is his personality. Where before there was just a hint of asshole behind every word that he said, now it's fully coming out. And yeah, I mean, if you're a Packers fan or a Rodgers fan from the 2010s, it's probably got to suck to see, because he's still going to make it in the Hall of Fame. But I don't think you're ever going to look at him the same. And he deserves every bit of that.
Yep. And it's unfortunate, too, because now he's going to have to find, like, another job, like vice president or something. I don't know. Like, he's had offers, so you never know what could happen at this point. But, yeah, it'll be interesting, because at this point, it's, to me at least, if I was the Steelers, I get it. I get it. Like, because there is the potential, like, what if Rodgers can pull out one more great year and we go all the way with our defense, right? That's the thought in Tomlin's head, and I get that. But at this point, like, with the talent that the Jets had at certain points, I don't think that the attention and just overall toxicity is worth it at this point. I think the negatives just have to outweigh the positives. And I kind of forgot about it for a second, but I did want to bring this up because I think this is a kind of good comparison a little bit. I don't remember the full details of the story, but at this point, Aaron Rodgers almost feels similar to Trevor Bauer in baseball, Caleb. I don't know if you really know his story quite as well, but there's a lot of things that caused him to get pushed out of baseball that we don't need to get into. They ended up getting proven wrong in courts. Whatever you want to feel about that. But after things were disproven, he started wanting to get back on an NFL roster. But at that point, he'd started a YouTube channel. He'd started this massive media presence. And no MLB team wants him anymore, despite him putting on like pitcher of the year performances in Japan. He still looks like an MVP caliber pitcher. Nobody wants him. And every year it seems like we've been almost waiting for that to happen to Rodgers a little bit, where like at what point does he just end up on a blacklist because he just the negatives outweigh the positives, right? At a certain point, it's too risky. When do you hit that bar? And I don't know how we haven't already hit it, to be honest with you. Like at this point, Rodgers is very well past his expiration date. It seems very obvious that that's the case, at least.
Yeah. And I mean, with the Bauer comparison, it's just like, if you're a shitty person, like, you're not going to get the chance to be, like, no matter what your talent is, you're not going to get that chance to start for any franchise. Because, I mean, you can talk about the allegations against Bauer not, like, going through in court, but, I mean, like you said, it's everything around that. Like, even just, you read his Wikipedia page, and it's just, like, a laundry list of all the, like, shitty, awful things he did, harassing people online. You go through a list of his political beliefs, and it's just like, oh, well, this is all kind of awful. And just like, again,
well, at the end of the day, like, it's just the fact that teams don't want somebody who has a YouTube channel. Like, they don't want somebody who's actively putting everything on the internet. That's just the truth. Yeah,
it's that, but it's not even just like, it's not having a YouTube channel that's the problem. It's not publicizing it that's the problem. It's the general toxicity of it, right? Like, it's the
I think it's a mix of everything, honestly.
You can be public and you can put yourself out there. Like, there's examples of athletes that do that and are a little bit more of a, like, you know, even some of the like divas, but you put up with it. But there's a certain point where that kind of sours even further, and it becomes like even more than that, and you reach a point of no return. I think an interesting kind of comparison, because, and I think the Steelers are a good place to start for this, is where you have the Steelers being unwilling to take, because you talk about like, oh, like the big what if, like, well, what if Rodgers comes back and is this the great quarterback that we all know him? It's a similar kind of chance that you take on a rookie that you draft, where it's like, what if this pick turns out to be something great? First of all, I mean, the optics of taking that chance on a 20-year-old versus a 40-year-old, you know, where's your return on investment there? But even just comparing, they're so dug in on taking this chance on Rodgers, but they don't want to take a chance on a guy like Shedeur Sanders. And I don't know, it's just such a strange double standard there.
That's true, actually. I didn't really think of that.
There's obviously, like, Shedeur apparently didn't interview very well. Apparently, like, again, we don't know, we're not in the room, but apparently, you know, seemed to be maybe a little bit full of himself in the interviews, did not compose or contort himself very well, and is very, you know, like, he stands up for himself, you know, in the model of how his dad did. But no matter what you believe about what Shedeur Sanders has or has not done, he has not done nearly the shit that Aaron Rodgers has done.
I was about to say, it's funny, because if the standard is the Steelers don't want a quarterback who is a little full of themselves, has a big balloon for a head, and and is willing to just stand up for themselves, I mean, Rodgers has shown multiple times that he is willing to be more than outspoken about his opinions. So
yeah, and it's just like, where is the line there? If you like like, what is the reason you're passing on Shedeur? If you're saying that it's because he's going to bring all this outsized attention and you don't want to handle the drama, then why the fuck are you going after Aaron Rodgers?
You know, I guess the other side of the argument is, like, it's the same thing. I remember hearing the quote of, like, people don't want a QB2 who's going to get the same amount of attention as QB1. if you look at it like that, I think it kind of makes sense a little bit, you know. I think I kind of follow that logic, honestly, because at least with A-Rod, he's your QB1, right? At least the attention is where it should be, you could say. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here. But, like, maybe the argument is, like, you bring in Shedeur and your quarterback one is, like, I don't know, like, I can't even think of an example. Some random vet. Shedeur is obviously going to get more attention than, like, Joe Flacco or whatever, right? Like, he's going to get more attention than whoever that, like, 37-year-old you decided to throw in for 1 year. And the only exception to that is A-Rod. A-Rod is probably the only situation where Shedeur wouldn't necessarily have all the cameras on him. So I guess what I'm trying to say is what the Steelers should have done is grabbed A-Rod and grabbed Shedeur and just had the worst QB room ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, again, I think Rodgers would make Shedeur look like a saint, like not like he's again, not like Shedeur.
Well, what I was gonna say is it would just turn into like a media war where it's two dudes in glass houses throwing stones. Like it's.
Yeah, I think that would be part of it too. I don't know though. Like I do think the draft fall is part of this, but at least from everything I've seen out of Browns camp, we haven't heard much from Shedeur. I think he's been humbled, and I think he's kind of approaching it differently, which
is good.
Yeah, maybe the Steelers worth taking a flyer on in the 4th round probably would have had the same effect. It's like stuff like that you look back on. Was Will Howard really the answer? Like, is that really where you want to go with your quarterback that you're drafting? I don't know. It's questionable roster management, and it's the kind of thing that just makes you think like, we place these NFL teams like it's like, oh, could I ever be a GM? Probably not. I'd probably be shit at it. But there is some things that are just so incredibly obvious, and for whatever reason, it goes over the head of the people in charge. I don't know how you can watch like a minute of Aaron Rodgers talk and think this is the guy that's going to come in and save the franchise. Because, like, even to kind of wrap it all up, if you take it at its best case scenario to say they get Rodgers, he comes in and he leads them on a deep playoff run. I don't know if this team has the capacity to win the Super Bowl, but let's say like even if they get close, whatever, that obviously huge success. But my guess is that probably throughout that season, that team is going to be like a toxic wasteland. They'll maybe get there, but the team will probably be crumbling all around them. And then where do you go when Aaron Rodgers is probably off his 1-year deal, and then it's a whole drama? Well, now you have to bring him back, and the roster's aging all around you, and he is continuing to be outspoken to the media. Where does that leave you?
I think I've heard this story before, Grandpa.
Yeah, it's like what is the Steelers' plan past now, right? And I think it's something brought up in that Bradshaw quote where Bradshaw's like, what are you doing trying to build around that? You can't. Taking everything out of the conversation, everything else, it's just a bad idea to try to start again with a 40 year old quarterback. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense from I can't make it straight from any possible angle. Like, it doesn't make sense from literally any way you try to approach it. There's numerous reasons why it's a shitty idea, and that terrible. I feel so bad for DK. I love DK. He's going to be in for a rough year, I think, no matter if Aaron Rodgers is there or if he isn't, because the Steelers have just fucked themselves anyways by chasing after a narcissist who likes the smell of his own fucking farts too much. Like,
that's a good line. I'm gonna use that. Yeah. But I know you're a big DK defender, so I already know what your response to this is gonna be. But we really did miss out on the potential newsworthiness of a locker room that could have had Aaron Rodgers, Shedeur Sanders. Holy crap, Simon! Get your shit together. DK, Shedeur, Pickens, and A-Rod. Now, wouldn't that have been a scene?
Yeah.
Get Hard Knocks on the Steelers now.
I personally would have preferred the Hard Knocks situation of a theoretical Russ, Jameis, Shedeur quarterback room.
Oh.
That's what I was looking forward to.
That would have been good,
because I
too.
think that would have been spectacular. But no, again, yes, I am a DK defender. Like, I think DK, like, again,
I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying with like the public, the way that the public kind of sees it is kind of
right.
the way that the news cycles would take it is kind of what I mean. I'm not saying anything about DK. I'm trusting that you have a more understanding of that. But
I think he gets this reputation as a diva when I think he's really just like the Kachuk type that's really uber competitive and just gets pissed when he's not winning, versus a guy like Pickens, who it's very much seemed like it's when he's not getting the ball, regardless of whether they're winning or losing, that becomes an issue. So I don't think DK would play as much into that. I could see him getting pissed at Rodgers for there's a miscommunication on a play or whatever. Like, I'm sure that'll inevitably come up whenever they sign him, and
we're going to talk about that lightly in a little bit. That's
true. But no, like, it's stuff like that. It would be very interesting, the dynamic of it all. It's too bad they traded Pickens away, and in a way, like, I feel like A-Rod and Pickens are meant for each other. It's a classic, it is the Steelers. They love their narcissists. It's A-Rod, it's Pickens, it's Antonio Brown before him.
I wonder what Brown's doing. God, if they're bringing in A-Rod, I don't know, like, what bridge can't be unburned, like.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a prolific Twitter career.
It's true.
So,
that's true. And if we've seen anything, Twitter careers can really blossom into very large things.
Really, what's an NFL career when you have
exactly
a Twitter?
Exactly.
I'm sure that's what he envisioned. He's hit all his goals.
That's what was on his checklist when he was 12.
Yeah. What's the one thing we can all be grateful in all this? As far as I know, Aaron Rodgers is not really on Twitter. So, there's some good in the world.
Is he not?
No. I don't know if he is. If he is, then he's not. Oh, he's on Twitter. But at least as far as I know, he's not
curious.
He's not oh no, never mind. Immediately I go to his Twitter account and he's retweeting Tucker Carlson. Never mind.
Oh, is that right?
I take everything back. The world is fucked.
Oh, he does have a Twitter. Oh my gosh. I don't want to listen to you talk, buddy. Okay. All right, we don't need to get into what's on his Twitter, but he does have a Twitter. We have confirmed that Aaron Rodgers has a Twitter. Yeah, fun.
The world is awful. I hate this.
God, you gotta love Twitter. It's great. It's great.
End the segment. I can't even fucking do.
No, it's okay.
Fuck Aaron Rodgers.
Excuse me. Use his full title. Fuck Vice President Aaron Rodgers.
Oh God.